Let me now turn to my second guest tonight, someone who has been perhaps more deeply involved than anyone else since the liberalization of 1991 in various roles. Finance Secretary, as Deputy Chairman, Planning Commission. I'm joined by Montek Singh Ahluwalia. Appreciate your joining us, Dr. Ahluwalia. The Finance Minister has been saying that the economy may be facing a slowdown, there is no recession. In your view, is the crisis far deeper than what the government is telling us at the moment? Is it recession, or dare I say stagflation, as some are calling it? How do you see the state of the economy today?
Well, you know, these words depend on definitions. I mean, if you mean by a recession, negative output growth, I don't think we're in a negative output growth situation. But we're in the middle of a pretty calamitous slowdown. You know, we've been used to 8% growth over a long period, going up and down here and there. The expectations that were built up were that we were actually going to get to double-digit growth. Now, compared to that, what we've seen in the last 2 years is a steady deceleration. And in this year, it looks like a collapse of growth. You know, in the first quarter of 1920, the current financial year, GDP growth dropped, as you know, to 5%. I'm looking at GVA, the GVA concept, which is the same as the old factor cost. It dropped to 5%. You know, at that time, the government still said that we are going to achieve a growth rate of 6.9% or something like that. Well, clearly that was not happening. And in the second quarter, the growth rate dropped to 4.5%. Now, in the third quarter, we don't have the results yet, but you know, the early indications are that there is no real sign of an acceleration in growth at this point. So in all probability, in the third quarter too, we will get something like 4.5. Some people say maybe even a little lower. Yes, many people think that it may have bottomed out at this level, and with the right policies, and that's a key issue, the right policies, that the economy will start going up again.
Sir, those right policies, I want to stop you there. When you say right policies, what exactly are the right policies for revival? If you were advising Nirmala Sitharaman ahead of the budget, where would this process of economic revival start? What would you tell her to do in policy terms?
Well, I mean, it's very difficult to put yourself in the position of an advisor if you're not an advisor. But, you know, the key thing she has to keep in mind is that the problems are not just related to the sorts of things that a budget talks about. I mean, I think we're in the middle of a deeper crisis, which has multiple causes and needs to be addressed across the board. But the budget is also very important. Now, from the budgetary point of view, I mean, the biggest problem, and many people have pointed this out, is that the fiscal deficit is completely out of control. The target was 3.3%. There's lots of discussion about whether we should relax it or not relax it. You know, I feel that when growth has really collapsed, relaxing the deficit target is not at all a big deal. Because quite frankly, with growth down to 4.5%, I don't think they should be cutting expenditure in order to maintain the deficit, since the revenues have already collapsed. But the question is, how much of a deterioration have we got? And here the problem is that there's an underlying deterioration which has been hidden in the past. I think the CAG in a report recently said that the accounting principles and practices which the ministry is using ends up reducing the fiscal deficit by almost 2 percentage points of GDP. So quite frankly, the most important thing to do on this point is to come clean and to simply say, you don't have to give excuses or anything, just simply say that using proper accounting, there are many practices that shouldn't have been followed, and the fiscal deficit is much closer to 5% or something of that sort, and then produce a credible plan for bringing it down. Now, that credible plan is not an easy one to achieve, because there are many difficult steps that would have to be taken, especially on the taxation side. You know, I think, let's face it.
You know, let's come to taxation for a moment. Many are saying either you need GST to be completely overhauled, others are saying you will need some kinds of tax incentives that put more money in people's pockets to revive demand. How do you see the government's options, particularly when they face a resource crisis when it comes to taxation?
Well, you know, in my view, what you've got at the moment is a slowdown in the economy on the demand side, because investment has collapsed and rural demand is very low. If you want to do a little bit of stimulation, the stimulation should be aimed at the lowest income group. I don't think a tax relief given to corporates or high-income individuals will lead to any change in demand. So probably on the expenditure side, you know, picking up on construction, road construction, even railways programs, strengthening Magnarega, strengthening some of the programs that would bring in improved development in agriculture, these things would actually help demand in the short run. But you know, more important than that is fixing some of the obvious problems. I mean, for example, the GST. You know, the GST, for one reason or another, has been a huge disappointment. Many people have pointed out that it's just been badly designed. So I would look to the finance minister making an announcement that what is she proposing to do to fix the GST? It's got too many rates, it's too complicated. Are they willing to say that we're going to go down to maybe 2 rates or something like that? Now, I realize that the budget can't do that because it has to be done by the GST Council. But you know, a firm statement by the finance minister that this is actually the intention of the government would be a major signal.
Economy is heading to ICU. One said that this is now closer to the 1991 crisis. Banks in serious trouble, no credit offtake, a general sense we could be in a deeper crisis than we think. Do you share that pessimism, or are you more optimistic?
Well, I think that was one point I was going to come to, that the problem of the banks and the financial sector is something that's going to prevent us from getting out of this 4.5% growth. We need to address the banking sector problems very seriously, and linked to the banking sector is the non-bank finances companies, which initially, I mean, as the banks slowed down credit, the NBFCs expanded, now they're in crisis. So looking at the thing in totality, if we cannot put the banking system in a situation where it can expand credit adequately, we will have no chance of accelerating growth. Now, you know, the 1991 crisis was a balance of payments crisis. You could have similar problems in the sense that if people feel that India is no longer likely to grow as rapidly as we thought it was, it'll have an impact on external flows into India. And that could lead to a balance of payments crisis. So, quite frankly, we should take a look at this very, very seriously. And address all these issues. Now, obviously, on the balance of payments, the size of the fiscal deficit is a huge problem. And it's much better to admit that it's large and we're going to reduce it than pretend that it's small. And everybody's pointing to all kinds of reports saying that, you know, we're fiddling here and fiddling there.
Okay. Dr. Ahluwalia, as always, a pleasure talking to you. It's good to have fine minds giving the government hopefully bipartisan advice. I know the budget paper and speech is ready, but hopefully Nirmala Sitharaman is watching. All eyes will be on Finance Minister. Our special coverage starts from 7 a.m. in the morning.
Hi everyone, Preeti Chaudhary here. Hope you like this video. For latest news and analysis, like and subscribe to the India Today YouTube channel. And don't forget to press the bell icon to stay updated. Thank you for watching.